Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be reviewing an African violet called Moroznaia Vishnia, Frosty Cherry. This is a Russian hybrid of African violets. It was designed by Konstantin Morev in 2005. It took him over 11 years to bring this cultivar to perfection, and now it's a popular variety of African violets that people grow in their homes across the globe. The blossoms of this violet are white double stars, so they're really full, with crimson mottling throughout the flower. The diameter of the flower is about 5 centimeters or 2 inches, and they're big blooms. And here's a dime coin for you to compare, and it's not the largest bloom. The older blooms are right here, and you can see how it compares in size. They're really big blooms. Each stem carries 2 flower buds, so we can see under this main flower there is another bud picking out, and I'm really happy to see all those buds coming up. The violet has a compact rosette. It's a standard variety, but I noticed that it's very compact, and I really like it this way because it just showcases the beauty of these big blossoms. The small rosette really lets the blossoms shine. The leaves are tailored medium green, just like any regular African violet leaves that don't have any specific characteristics. They're not variegated or curly, they're just medium tailored green leaves. It starts blooming relatively soon. I got this plant 6 weeks ago, and it was very young at that time, in February, and you can see how small it was in my African violets and other Gesneriads new beginnings video on YouTube. I will leave the link to that video in the description box so you can compare. When I saw the first bloom, this one here, you see, I noticed how pale it was, and first I couldn't understand why, and then I started reading up about Frosty Cherry, and it is special in a way that it reacts, it changes the color or the intensity of the blooms based on how much light it gets and how warm the temperature is. And as we know, the temperatures for the violets should be somewhere from upper 60s to anywhere mid to upper 70s. So somewhere from about 18 Celsius to 24-26 Celsius, and the 60s and 70s and 80s are in Fahrenheit, of course. So the more ideal environmental condition it gets, then the more true to color it blooms. So we can actually trace it here, because this bloom that is already getting older developed when I had a temperature inside in mid 60s, I would say. Then this came next, this one right here, and it was already warming up, and so the crimson started developing in the petals. Then it cooled down again, and so the third one also kind of got pale. But then the fourth one shows really true colors, and the temperature was in mid 70s, I would say, when it started opening up. So I really enjoy this special feature that this violet has. It's really interesting to observe. The care for this violet is the same as for all other African violets. It needs up to 12 hours of daylight to grow successfully, and I mentioned already the temperature. As far as the soil, I haven't changed the soil on this one yet, because I feel like 6 weeks is not long enough for it to be repotted, so I just kept it in the original pot. It's a smaller size pot with the original wick, and I just use the distilled water here with some fertilizer to encourage the blossoms, and I will talk about those a little bit. So the water that I use, I just purchase it in gallons here, just so that it's easy, I don't have to measure, because the fertilizer that I use, I just basically put it in this big jar, the one gallon jar of, or 1 gallon canister of water. So the fertilizer, I found this one in my local Lowe's, and it's called Miracle Grow Bloom Booster Flower Food. And so the ratio on this one is, it's very important to pay attention to the ratio. It's 15, 30, 15, and it's an NPK ratio, or the proportion of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which are very important nutrients for plants. And so what I do, I dilute it in a proportion that is much smaller than the proportion indicated in the directions for use. The directions for use say that you need to mix half a teaspoon per gallon for indoor plants, and I cut it in half. So I mix 1/4 teaspoon per gallon and mix it up in this bottle here. So just 1/4 teaspoon, really small amount, and then I just use that to add into the wicking container as it evaporates, to make sure that it always has the water with the fertilizer in it, and I never really let it dry. So I also know that humidity is very important, and the air here is rather dry, so I always make sure when I'm home I always run the humidifier, and when it's cool, I inside or outside, I run it on the warm mist setting, and when it gets hot, then I run it on a cold mist setting. And so I think I overdid it with this particular violet, because I put it very close to the humidifier, and the mist, even though ever so fine, it still left the water stains that you probably see here. I can bring it closer so you can see the stains of the water on the petals. And these petals, they're very velvety, they have the velvety surface, and so especially on the white color, it's very noticeable, those yellowish water stains. So it was a lesson for me, and I now don't put it so close to the humidifier. So this was the first follow-up video for my African violets and other gesneriates, new beginnings, done in February of this year, and I will keep observing other plants and taking good care of them, and I will keep you updated in my future videos. Stay tuned.